Well, you've got multiple candidates on that stage that said they wouldn't touch entitlements, including Trump. And any candidate that says they're not going to touch entitlements means that they're basically going to go into office and then leave America bankrupt. Social Security is going to go bankrupt in 10 years. Medicare is going to go bankrupt in 8. So the way we deal with it is we don't touch anyone's retirement or anyone who's been promised in, but we go to people like my kids in their 20s when they're coming into the system and we say the rules have changed. We change retirement age to reflect life expectancy. Instead of cost of living increases, we do it based on inflation. We limit the benefits on the wealthy, and we expand Medicare Advantage plans. 65 is way too low, and we need to increase that. We need to do it according to life expectancy.
Social Security is not an entitlement. If it's something we've paid for, then it becomes a service. And I think we can all be in agreement that there needs to be heavy reform to Social Security and, frankly, how we treat the elderly. On a side note, it should be illegal for these funds to be used for any other purpose than what it's been designated for. Last I checked, it was theft to take another person's money without their consent. The writing has been on the wall that these programs have needed to be updated for decades. I've read books that were written in the 1990s in which the authors already indicated that these programs were financially doomed. And it's been 30 years since then, and nothing has been done. As apparently we're giving out ridiculous proposals now, here are my 2 cents, and please bear with me as this is very raw, fresh, and would need to be very fine-tuned with a lot more data and research if it were to be implemented in any form. But the gist of the ideas are as I will soon outline. But a bit of background is needed first. As of 2023, Social Security cost us about $1.4 trillion, or roughly 21% of our current budget. This is paid out to 48.6 million retired workers, or about 14% of the population. Last year, the government spent $6.13 trillion. Of this, about 13 to 18%, depending on which source you're finding, is paid on interest alone from our current debt. The GDP, the gross domestic product, in the United States is $27.94 trillion. And the profits from this per year were about $3.5 trillion. Personal income in the United States added up to be about $21.8 trillion yearly. So what does this kind of mean? Off rough glance, if the corporate profit was taxed at a flat rate of 25% and the personal income tax was taxed at a flat rate of 25%, given the figures above, this would provide the federal government with $6.325 trillion. And remember, last year, our government spent $6.13 trillion. We no longer should be enablers to other countries, especially at the expense of our own, and especially when we can't pay our own bills. And we are borrowing from other countries every year to pay our own bills. No more spending more than what we're taking in each year in taxes. We need to stop borrowing from foreign governments to pay our bills, and we need to stop borrowing if we ever intend to not be in debt. And we need to start paying down our deficit. This is a true foreign concept. Pun intended. Our expenses need to be cut. We need to stop kicking these exorbitant payments onto our children and our grandchildren. This curve has gone exponentially up and should be a huge shame on all congressmen and women, and frankly us, for keeping them in office. Our tax code needs to be simplified, but the gist of it is that there should be no more write-offs, no more large corporations worth trillions of dollars making billions of dollars, or extremely well-off people, wealthy politicians and businessmen getting away with paying no taxes. No more tax loopholes. Tax write-offs only benefit those who have the means. I can do another video a lot more in depth if there is interest shown in this, but I think both political sides can get behind a new tax plan if done correctly, and assuming they all aren't in the pockets of large corporations and wealthy billionaires to begin with. And sadly, it looks like they are. As I said before, a flat tax of 25% on all income would cover last year's spending, plus have some extra, which we need to have extra in order to pay off our bills that the current and past congressmen have left us. Now, a progressive tax code might end up being more beneficial. However, I would need to do a lot more research into figuring out how it should be construed so that a overall sum of about 25% of the total income would still be had. Now, switching back to the topic of retirement, I will first address healthcare and medical insurance, then go into Social Security itself. One of the primary hurdles for people considering retirement is medical insurance and being able to qualify for Medicare plans. due to the exorbitant cost of healthcare in our country, which is completely wrong, and having the monthly payment of Social Security in order to be able to pay for this. I am heartbroken when I see patients who've worked their whole life unable to get the care they need because most insurance plans suck. Therefore, for anyone who has put in 30 years of full-time work and is at least age 55, they can choose to retire with full Medicaid type coverage, meaning it's fully paid for. You've worked long, you've worked hard, you've sacrificed a lot. So hopefully between good, healthy decision making and hitting the genetic lottery, you still have a few good years, if not decades left, to sit back, or better yet, go out and enjoy your life with your family and friends. But it's a fair question to ask, how is this to be paid for? We have to spend money more wisely as a country. What is currently being spent needs to be audited regularly and warranted. The states of the United States need to take more responsibility and accountability for their own issues. We no longer need to try to police the whole world by ourselves. And in all reality, we would probably have to make additional sacrifices on top of this in order to make it all financially work. Consumer spending in the United States is about $13 trillion a year. And we would probably might have to make the sacrifice of an additional flat sales tax of about 3 to 6% on all items to help augment the budget to provide these services. But for 100% coverage for those age 55 and older after decades of hard work, I think it'd be worth it. Finally, Social Security. It costs $1.4 trillion per year to cover Social Security as is. But with the rising population that is qualifying for Social Security and the workforce that is statistically in decline, I would suggest a transition to a modified Social Security payment structure. This modified plan wouldn't be screwing over our grandchildren and children or asking them to work to ridiculous ages, or be the equivalent of putting a band-aid on a gushing wound. As you may not be aware of, 6.1% of our income is deducted out of our paycheck to go into Social Security. Your employer is required to put in an additional 6.1%. That means that 12.2% of your base pay is put towards Social Security. If this was allowed just to be put into your name, kind of like in a additional 401k type structure, and allowed to grow with the market, guess what? You would have a lot of money saved for retirement, especially on top of any additional retirement plans that you currently have. However, we would have to transition to this sort of plan, and that would take some time and years. It's not a perfect solution, but it's something. And frankly, I think it is a lot better plan than telling people that they need to work until their last dying breath. Please don't forget to subscribe and comment below. How would you suggest we tackle some of these issues? I know it's a lot and it's been a lot, but how would you suggest we tackle it?